Welcome everybody. All right, I see everyone's starting to load into Zoom here. This is awesome. This has actually been our biggest sign up rate yet. I think a lot of people are very excited to see TokenSuite. I'm excited to share with everyone. So I guess before as we're waiting for everyone to kind of join, why does everyone kind of just drop into the chat where they're from? Let's kind of see where we are all joining this virtual Zoom room from all over the world. So feel free to drop into the chat where you're located, and I'm going to figure out, I feel this interface changes every time I open it up, how I can actually see everyone's comments here. Here we go, here's the chat. Here's the chat. All right, cool. All right, awesome. So as everyone's coming in here, just drop where you're from, and we're gonna get started in about a minute or two. I'm just allowing everyone to join. Awesome. Anyways, if anyone doesn't know who I am, I'm Gavi. I am the CEO. Here we go. Sorry, so chat is disabled. Why is chat disabled? Everyone, okay, here we go. All right, chat should be available for everyone. All right, you should be able to check it now. All right, Brent, Michael, Phil, check it out now. All right, Phil's calling from Colorado. Check it. Let me know if if the chat is working now. It says everyone. No, it's still not working. Why is the chat not working? Let's see here. Who can see the messages? Give me 1 second. I'll figure this out. Always have tech problems, right? Chat. Who can see the messages? To everyone. Everyone. Let's turn on. Here we go. Panelists can chat with everyone, and attendees can chat with everyone. All right. Now, can you guys check it? See if it works now? There we go. Awesome. All right, great. Thanks, guys. We'll figure it out eventually. Okay, so I got 2 places. I got Chicago and I got Colorado. My neighbor just got back from Colorado. They were there for 2 weeks. They were in Denver and a few other areas. Sarasota, Florida, Austin, Texas, Johannesburg. Awesome. I know someone who flew to Johannesburg 2 days ago. He's on a safari. He sent me a video yesterday. That's awesome. Brussels, Mexico. Cool. Awesome. Right, Fort Worth, Texas. Very cool. Awesome. Singapore. All right, we're literally all over the world here. This is awesome. Argentina. Very cool. All right, Brent. There you go. I'll give you a call out. Line Sustainable Workforce Housing, Nevada. There you go. Everyone who's on this chat can go check you guys out and see if you guys can do some business together. I don't want this to become a pitch fest. No one else is allowed to do that. I'm only giving Brent the leeway to do that now. All right, cool. Awesome. So Egypt, very cool. So I know you and I are actually pretty close. I'm based in Israel. Very cool here. So fine, we're gonna get started on everything. We got a lot of really fun, exciting stuff we're gonna be covering today, and I'm just gonna get myself situated here. Okay, so I'm just gonna say you guys are welcome to leave comments in the chat. For everyone, when I'm done, I will do a Q&A session for everything that we go through, and I'll go through it, and that you might want to save your questions to the end when I can see it. One note, anyone who does join anonymously, I'm not going to be reading anonymous comments. So I gotta know who you are to be able to answer your questions. So make sure if you want to ask a question and you are anonymous, just log back in, log out, log back in with your name, and we're going to get started. Okay, so let's do this. Let's share my screen, and let's get moving. All right, London, very cool. Yeah, it's funny. I connect to all these places. My in-laws just live in London. I feel like one of those scammy salesmen, right? So that's literally true. That's literally what's happening. All right, let me get my chat window so I actually see what's going on here. Here we go. Let's get the chat going over here. Very cool. Okay, fine. So we are going to go through a couple of things today. First, let's dive into the deck. We're going to be covering the future of moving real estate assets to the blockchain and a behind-the-scenes look at TokenSuite. So welcome, everyone. Welcome from literally everyone all over the world. We have, so I actually just changed my screen. So I actually didn't even know how many people we had. Last I checked, we had close to 40 people, I think, 38 people who have joined today's webinar, which is awesome. I'm sure we'll get a few more that will pop in throughout the next half hour, 45 minutes or so. And the 3 things we're going to be covering in today's webinar, we're going to go through kind of like a detailed look about how tokenization works, because it's important to understand the framework before we dive into the actual product itself. I'll then do a walkthrough of TokenSuite, right? What we're calling the next gen of tokenization, and give you a walkthrough on that. And then we'll do a little bit of, at the end, kind of showing you DeFi options for getting loans and collateral with those DeFis. Basically, what's the point of tokenization if you can't do anything with them, right? We'll show you some options in addition to liquidity and trading on the secondary market. What are some other options you can actually do to get more funding for your business to be able to help grow and scale up and create this perpetual cycle of growth? So let's dive into this right now. What is a security token? So very, very simply, a security token uses blockchain to issue a digital share. Okay, digital share of a company, right? Generally, you're going to make a SPV of some kind. Company's going to house and hold the asset, and then you're going to issue shares to everyone. The old way to do it is a paper share that people are going to receive, like they're basically owning a share of the company. And what we're doing is we're basically swapping that out and moving over to tokens. And once you have tokens, you now have really what is a digital asset that has a lot more options and flexibility to be able to do more things with it, right? So again, issuing these digital shares unlocks access to better asset management tools. So I'm going to go through today. I'm really excited about it. Anyone who's been on my demos recently, I've given you a demo to, I'm really excited about some of this stuff. So I'm really excited to share it with everyone on the call today. It overall leads to happier LPs, happier token holders, because they have more control, more visibility, more transparency, more options with their investment. And it opens up a whole world of digital options for you. So this is really what a security token is in a nutshell. Just basically is a digital representation of a share of a company, right? That's essentially what it is. And once you have that share, you have options because you're unlocking it from kind of like the old school 2D paper worlds, whatever, and you're using blockchain to basically free it to have a lot more options. And we're going to go into a bit more of that in a little bit. So what does the tokenization process look like on a very high level? Right, so basically you can take an asset, a real world asset, and you can basically turn it into something that can be traded like a stock, right? That's the real benefit. It's liquid. It's something that can be sold very easily, and you can use it to something that can access Web3 finance, right? So the process works: real world assets. You mint your tokens. You put it on trading platforms. You have token buyers on the flip side, both primary and secondary, and then you can use those tokens as collateral for DeFi loans, etc., and kind of the general world of Web3 finance. This quick kind of overview of SolidBlock, kind of who we are. We were the first company. We really created this industry. We were the first company to tokenize a commercial real estate property, the St. Regis Aspen Resort, the St. Regis Resort in Aspen, Colorado, with the Aspen coin. And we were the ones that really developed. Really, it's a few sections, I say segments. It's obviously the technology side of it. How do you actually do the technology side of tokenization and smart contracts and blockchain? There is then, what's I think more important is the legal framework. And how do you do this also within a regulatory framework, right, that falls within existing SEC guidelines? Because, again, the crypto world right now, it's a bit of a gray area. We're getting a lot more clarification. We're starting to, or at least indications on where things are going to go with regulations. But we don't want to be kind of in a gray area of the regulations. We're working in the real estate industry, and essentially what we're doing with blockchain and these tokens is we're using them as tools to unlock the existing asset. And by working within the legal framework, the existing legal framework, it allows us to be able to move forward without any hesitation on the legal side to make sure that all these assets are compliant and work later on. So, again, there's some numbers on this. Again, the asset raising, it was a big success. We raised $18 million in less than 4 months. Once it started trading, it had almost 30% upside on the first year and a half. And it was overall a very, very good deal. So in terms of the details about how you actually tokenize, there's basically 4 main steps, right? The process works that there's a legal setup, right? This is really the first step. And a lot of the questions that people ask me and ask are really questions more of a legal nature than a tokenization nature. With tokenization, you can do anything. So the question is, can I do this with tokenization? The answer 9 times out of 10 is yes, you can do it. The question is, what's the legal framework to be able to allow for it? Can you do a fund? People ask me, can you do a fund? It's like, yes, can you do it? You can create a fund without tokenization. And what you do is the company that is the fund company just tokenizes their assets. It's very simple, very straightforward to be able to do that. So the first step is going to be setting up the legal framework for your offering. The second step is going to be the project setup, right? So we're going to go through creating an account and setting things up on TokenSuite. And again, that's part of what we're going to show. I'll show you in today's webinar. We then spend time building the smart contracts out, right? So this is basically taking the PPM. What are the rules of the PPM and digitizing it so that the logic of the PPM is built into the smart contract, so it can execute accordingly based on the legal framework of that PPM, right? Again, it's the technology that's executing on what the legal framework is to be able to make sure that the deal runs smoothly and everyone gets proper ownership and any dividends and distributions that they're supposed to receive on there, and that allows you to also do a few cool things. And again, I'm going to show you the distribution side of things as part of this webinar later on, which is kind of one of the cool things that you can do with the smart contracts. And then once it's done, you generally there's a 3 to 12 month lockup period before it can be listed on exchanges. This is primarily for US. So if you only have non-US, it's a little bit different story. But US investors, buyers, they need to wait 12 months. There needs to be a 12-month lockup period before it can be sent over to the exchange. But that's kind of at a high level, kind of how the flow and the process works. And now I'm going to dive into TokenSuite. So what is TokenSuite? TokenSuite is really the SaaS platform that SolidBlock has built to basically streamline this entire process, make it super easy for people to be able to onboard and manage their assets. In an absolute nutshell, I will read the tagline from the screen because I worked really, really hard on simplifying this. You have no idea, it's just a couple of words, but it took a long time to get it down to make it simple. But it's TokenSuite. It makes it easy for asset owners to move real-world asset ownership to the blockchain and join the blockchain Web3 economy. Right, that's where we're moving the ownership to the blockchain, and then they're joining the Web3 economy, but again, which gives them all the options that we're going to get into shortly. So the 6 kind of core things we're going to go through in this walkthrough in this demo. We're going to go through the dashboards, the dashboard for the issuer. So if you're the issuer in this case, this is going to kind of be your control panel where you're going to get to control everything about the assets that you've issued and your token holders, etc., and kind of what that looks like. I'll walk you through it. The second thing is going to be, how do you manage your token holders? So people who are actively invested in a project already, what information can you get on them, and how can you see the overview of that? How do you onboard people? And this is actually, I would say it's a small unsung feature of this entire process. This is basically really what this is touchless onboarding of LPs. It's almost touchless, and the reason why this is important is particularly when it comes to having when you do, let's say, really what kind of tokenization allows for is having a lot of smaller investors, right? And the challenge with doing it compliantly is everyone needs to go through KYC, AML, and get onboarded, right? And so if you have to kind of be hand-holding everyone through the process, it's not really feasible to do this for 50 people, for example. So we actually have a system that guides people through it. And you would have, and you would be basically minimally or not even hands-on to actually bring those people on board compliantly. And I'll show you exactly how that works, as well as also the fund collection aspect of things. Now, once those token holders are on board, what do things look like on their side, right? So what's their dashboard look like? What information are they able to see, as well as then what can they do with their tokens, right? So we'll talk about how they can sell their tokens, how they can liquidate their tokens, how they can trade their tokens, as well as also the final thing will be how the yield and interest distributions work, right? So if you have a yielding property, how can you in one click distribute all your funds to people every single quarter without having to sit down there and writing checks, for hours and hours at a time to everyone else. So we're going to jump into that. So this is going to be the TokenSuite walkthrough. Let's jump into this thing. I'm just going to take a quick drink. Give me 1 second. All right. So this is TokenSuite. This is TokenSuite, and this is the issuer dashboard. So again, if you're the issuer, this is going to be your control panel. What you're going to see when you first log in to the system. And what you're going to see when you log in is you're going to, first thing you can see up the top here is the overall value of all the assets that you have on the platform. You can get this historical performance over time graph that shows you this information, and then you get to go down and see the information on your actual assets. There's a few areas here. Excuse me. There's a few areas here that you can see. So the first one is you can see the assets that have already been minted, and they're already minted, they're already trading. This is where you'll be able to see that over here. If you have an asset that is not already minted, right? So sometimes people will decide not to mint until after they've raised a certain amount. You can see that fundraising amount located here. You can do the fundraising on the platform. Again, you'll have to bring your own LPs, and you can talk to us about other options for fundraising. SolidBlock does not do fundraising themselves. We give you a platform to make it easier to do it, but you would still be responsible for bringing your LPs. But you'll be able to see a kind of a snapshot of how of where you're holding, of where that raise is holding. In terms of then bringing the new asset onboarding, you can, onboarding a new asset, you just click this button, bring a new asset on board. This is also what you would see when you would first log into the program, and you would input all the information about the asset. And when you're done, it would then start a process where you'd have a conversation with our legal team to make sure everything's in order and start putting the legal work in place, which is really the addendum of the PPM to be able to enable a tokenization. And that's how this would work within the platform. So in addition to the asset, kind of an asset snapshot on this dashboard, you also can see a snapshot of the token holders, of the LPs, right? So you can see, you can select the asset that you want, and you can see kind of a breakdown of let's go back. How do I go back here? There we go. I have a little technical issues here. The yell at someone on the tech team. All right, you can see a visual breakdown of the token holders of that asset. So obviously usually the issuer is going to be the biggest amount, and then you can see kind of who are the bulk of people who own the remainder of that asset. Again, just in a snapshot when you first log into the system, right there on the dashboard. So the next thing to do is how do we get people onto this platform to actually invest into the token? So let's assume you already have some people onboarded. So you go over to the investor management section, and you can see under the token holders area, you can see the list of all the people who are currently holding tokens within the system. You can see what tokens they're holding, what tokens have been allocated to them, their kind of high level views. If you need to dive in deeper, you can dive into and see the details, of an individual person managing their wallet, and see other things there as well. And then to actually get people onboarded into the system, so there's a few easy ways to do this. This part's kind of cool. So there's this onboarding investor section. So the way that this would work, again, we're going to assume that you are bringing LPs or potential investors to this offering. And what you can do is you can just upload a CSV straight to the program, or you can invite people individually, enter their name, choose which asset you want to invite them to, and just send the invite. And then that person gets added to this list. And what this list does, what you really see in this list is you see the where every single person is holding in the process, right? So this person's been invited, this person has completed the registration process and the different parts of the onboarding process. And when they're done, they'll go into the token holder section there. But this way also, like, if someone comes up and says, hey, I'm having a problem, having an issue, you can go right here and you can see, oh, which section are you in? Okay, this is where you're at, this is what you have to do next to be able to complete the onboarding process. Now that onboarding process is actually pretty easy and streamlined, and I'll show you now how that works. So when this goes out, this person or all these people will receive an email, basically from you. It's going to be on SolidBlock's platform, but the email will be coming from you on our platform, and it's going to be an invitation for them to come to the offering. So it's going to say, hey, welcome, Mary. Want you to check out this offering, and you can give some information about the offering as well as links to all the relevant documents. So the PPM, marketing materials that you want to share right there, and then from that email, they can click over to the offering page. And then this is the offering page that you would be able to put all the information you want about the offering. You could upload images and videos, any other additional documents you want. And then what kind of happens next is there's basically, for them to actually invest in the project, is essentially almost an e-commerce checkout process for them to be able to choose what shares they want to purchase, what amount, how many shares or tokens they want to purchase. And then they go to the add to cart section, and then they move on to the onboarding section. They open up an account, and then what the system's going to do is going to walk them through the KYC AML process. Now, what's great about this whole thing is that we give a roadmap here, so they actually understand where they're holding in the process. Like people will be like, oh, like, if you ever click on those kind of buttons and it's like, you have to click through 50 different screens, you never know when it's going to end. There's a high likelihood that people are going to click out. But if they understand where they're holding in the system, they're much more likely to stay in and say, oh, I just have to do this and this and this next. Now, that being said, let's say someone, they go to KYC to do KYC AML, and then they have to go get their passports. They go and they have their passport, and something happens, they forget about it, they never come back. So it's not listed here, but what actually happens is the system, now that it has their email address, will automatically send them follow-up emails saying, hey, you have to come finish your identity verification. You have to come finish your accreditation process, right? Hey, you haven't sent us over your funds yet, right? It will come and remind them and kind of move them forward every single step of the process. So not only is the actual process itself well streamlined, even if they leave, it will bring them back multiple times. And the goal here really is for you to spend the least amount of time onboarding LPs and more time fundraising and bringing new people into your offering. Okay, so identity verification, they'll fill all this out, they'll do accreditation, and then they will continue and they'll move on to the checkout area. Now, there's a couple areas here in the checkout area or options they can do for checking out. They can pay by credit card, do a wire, ACH, or they can pay in crypto. And we can set up an account in crypto if people don't want to hold crypto, that where it can liquidate straight to a bank account, or people can send things over in USDC, so it's US dollar stable coin, so there's no concern about price fluctuations. But if they want that, or they can remove this option entirely if they want. But if someone does want to get paid in crypto for their offering, there is that option for them to be able to include that. And then everything else, ACH, wire, credit card, all that stuff is pretty straightforward for people to be able to complete their funding for the offering. So with that being said, like this is a pretty streamlined process for people to be able to go through their KYC AML and complete their funding with minimal touch points from the issuer. So it's something you wouldn't have to worry about. All right, cool. So I'm going to dive into now the other side of things. I'll just gotta pause real quick. If anybody has any specific questions what I went through so far, before we get to the investor side of anything. So if anybody has any questions, you can just drop them in the chat here. Hold on, there's two windows here. Let me set this up properly. Hold on a second. Okay, here's a question from Thomas, right? So a benefit to being a realtor like myself is the commission on the sale or acquisition of the real estate property, right? So whatever you probably like a 2-3% commission. The SolidBlock keep 100% transaction fees when tokens are bought and sold, or is there a certain percentage the client also retains? I see there's also another reason people adopt this faster, they can retain the realtor commission. So yeah, so in terms of the transaction fees, those 100% can be split. They can be split according to again, I don't know the exact number if we have anything defined. That's definitely something that we can work out. Because basically the way that works, it's done on the smart contract, right? So smart contract will capture all of the transactions that happen, and then like here's the logic. So the logic goes like this, right? So transaction happens. Person A sends to person B, right? Let's say let's make it simple, $100, right? So we say, okay, fine, $100 and plus a 2% transaction fee, right? So of the 2% transaction fee, then we have a logic that says, okay, now of the 2% transaction fee, we have, let's say, 2 parties, right? And then X% is supposed to go to this person, X% is supposed to go to that person. So that's kind of the way that would work. All right, cool. So hold on. So Joel asked a good question. I'm guessing the token stays in the wallet. I guess here's my wallet is hacked. Yeah. So 2 things. So the way that SolidBlock is we're gonna be setting this up for now is we're gonna be doing a full custodial wallet in the platform, so you don't have to worry about your wallet being hacked. We're using institutional grade wallets from Gemini. So there's no concern about being hacked. And for the tokens itself, like the tokens that we issue, there's first of all, it's not like Bitcoin or USDC where if someone gets access to your private keys, they can go in and just send themselves all the money. You can only send money to someone who's to another wallet that's been whitelisted after it's gone through KYC AML, either through the TokenSuite platform or through one of our exchanges that we work with. It has to have gone through a KYC AML. And that being said, we also do have a rollback option if anything does happen to go awry. Like this is a public or this is whatever this is we have full control over that because of the issues of all this stuff. Okay. A lot of questions. Hold on, let me see here. What blockchain do they pay from? So right now we're building on Ethereum. We're looking at also Polygon, and potentially some other ones for this. Can an issued offering be tokenized? Yeah, sure, no problem. Not a problem. How do the funds flow to asset owners listing? How do funds flow to asset owners listing the assets? So they're going to have their own wallets where the money flows back to them. Are you asking, or I think I might get that in a little bit. You're asking, how do the funds flow to asset owners listing the assets? Like, are you talking about like say like a rental property? You're asking about like transaction fees. If it's anything that's happening with the tokens on the blockchain, right? Smart contracts will send the money wherever it needs to, or wherever it's supposed to go. If it's funds that you're collecting, let's say from a rental property, you still have to go through the same process. And I'll get to that actually in a little bit. About kind of how that would work. Your time simply own the assets to tokenize them, or do they use TokenSuite to raise funds to buy the assets? We have both. We have people who are, you know, they want to use the tokenization process is kind of like a marketing point to raise their own funds. We also have people. We have a guy who recently joined us. You know, they have yielding properties, and they just basically want to tokenize the property so that they can make their distributions to their LPs more streamlined. You make it possible to use your own wallet. So it's not going to be your own wallet right now with you know, let me just think about that for a second. I'm gonna make sure. So there's two aspects here. There's the security tokens, and then there's the USDC that gets paid out through various forms. USDC you can send to your own wallet. That's not a problem. In terms of the security tokens themselves, right now, if we're able, as long as we're able to match that wallet to somebody through KYC AML, then in the future they will, but it won't be for the primary sale. It will happen on the secondary sale afterwards. Like that's basically when there's a lockup, the lockup period is over, and we have a lot more flexibility in terms of trading. Okay, guys, I'm going to give a pause here. There's a lot more questions coming. I will get to the rest of the questions at the end because I want to get to the issuer, or I want to get to the investor side of the program as well. All right, cool. So let's dive into this. And this is going to be the other side of things. So after people have already onboarded, right, and gotten into the invested in the property, they're going to be able to log in to TokenSuite, and then they're going to be able. This is the information they'll be able to see on their side when they log in. So they're going to be able to, and first of all, just as an issuer, you would be able to brand this, add your logo, add your colors, and make this. Someone has asked about white labels. The answer is yes. Right, that's exactly the goal here. The goal is this to be white label. If you don't want people to know that it's on SolidBlock system, you're welcome to not let them know. We can make that happen for you. Okay, so the information that they can see, right? So they can see how much they've invested, what their P&L is on their assets over time. They can also get this nice little graph that if they're invested in multiple assets, kind of what the percentage breakdown is of those assets. Again, also the historical performance over time, just like any trading platform, and as well as the assets themselves that they're invested in. So what they can do is they can now, once they, you know, with the assets on a kind of a snapshot level, they can see the information on that particular asset. They can also click and dive in and get more information on that asset. And this is also where they can take action with those tokens, right? So if they, for example, one of the benefits, okay, let's just talk about some of the benefits to the LPs for a moment. One of the real benefits of tokenization is that they can liquidate their tokens, right? Easier. If they've invested $1 million and they need $10,000, they don't have to hire a lawyer for $10,000 to get their $10,000 out, right? They can sell it either over the counter to other people in the offering, which I'll show you how to do, or send it over to exchange and liquidate over there. So they can do this right within the platform. We're going to be working on some new UI over the next like 2-3 weeks. That's going to incorporate more aspects of this. I'm verbally telling this to you, but I'll show you one thing that you can do that already is designed. So you could, so they just go over here, they'll click sell, right? They'll click on sell, and they're gonna choose which token they want to sell, how many, and then they can choose the asking price. So the asking price is going to be based off the NAV initially, and then kind of the average of the traded tokens. But they can also go beyond that. So they can, if they want to, they can again, they can change this price. They can go up to $1.35. A a little bit lower. You as the issuer, if you don't want to, if you don't want to be worried about your token amount dropping too low, we can put safeguards in place that it can't drop below, let's say 20%. You'll have control over that. If you want, or if you want to kind of keep a free market approach to everything, it's your choice. But once they choose that, they can simply post it for sale. And what we're seeing over here, this is what's called the over-the-counter listing. This is basically a listing screen, right? So right now, what they're doing here is they're offering their tokens to everyone else who's invested in the project, or everyone else who's invested in the project of this particular company, who we've named Web3 Real Estate. There is an option as well, if you would like, also for them to have access to the wider SolidBlock system of other companies and their LPs, so they can see there's other tokens potentially we would want to sell. They can also, and this is where they can sell those tokens to those people. There's also then from here, they're gonna, and again, this should be available in like 2-3 weeks for them to be able to then right from here be able to send to an exchange. As long as the exchange has been whitelisted and the token has been added, they can send it straight from here to the exchange, open an account over there and trade it and liquidate it over there. All right, so that is the investor portal. So the last thing I want to show you, again, kind of coming to a story that always comes back to me when I think about this. Some guy, like he said, like he spends every quarter, he spends 15 to 20 hours calculating and writing out distribution checks. Costs a bunch of money. And so what we've done here is we've streamlined dividend distribution. And I'm just going to use an example of a yielding property to make this super simple. But basically the way it would work now, let's say you have a passive income yielding property, rental property. Every quarter you're going to have income, you're going to have expenses. At the end of every quarter, you have to do the books to see what the profit is and see, okay, what amount needs to be distributed to the LPs of this project. And again, this is usually where it goes, like we have, okay, who has what percentage of it? Now we have to start writing the checks out. What you can do now instead, and this is the benefit of doing everything on blockchain, you can instead take what that amount is, and here we have just $236,000, $870. Send it over to the platform, and then what you can do in one click, right? Click distribute, and all the people who are LPs in that project distribute dividends. One click, it all gets sent into their wallets, right? And the way that what's happening in the background, how this is working, is that the blockchain is managing the cap table. So, and it manages it almost instantly, right? So if you have an example of somebody who sells his tokens halfway through the month, right? So that dividend distribution is supposed to go to person A for the first half of the month and person B for the second half of the month, like half of that payment split. So it's fully able to do this for everything, and fully update everything within 15 minutes. Any trades that happen are fully updated. 15 minutes is the max. It's usually much less than that. It's fully updated, and everyone gets accurate distributions very, very quickly. And once this happens, on the flip side, the investors themselves can either hold this as crypto, and they can send it to an exchange, they can trade it, or they can liquidate it to their bank account through the platform as well. And that's how the distribution aspect of things work. So that is TokenSuite. I'm going to just show you one more example of now that the tokens have been issued. What are some things we can do? Now we can't announce it yet, but we're working with a partner that's going to allow us to do this. Over the next few weeks, we'll be able to make an announcement. But basically what they do is they enable DeFi loans. So I'm gonna kind of go through a little bit, kind of like what this looks like to be able to get loans using the token. So let's just talk a little about the problem. Right now, generally with using a building, let's say as collateral for a loan, is that if you have to pay up, right, and I only owe 5% of the value, like I have to basically sell this property, get the money out, right, or wherever the threshold winds up being, right? It's not practical, but when you have tokens, you can just liquidate the 5% of tokens in your tokenize, and it's much easier to collateralize those tokens. So the way this works will be as follows. I'll take you through this little diagram here. So you have tokens enable liquidity of assets to enable collateralization. So you have your illiquid asset, right? So you have your building on the ground, whatever the asset might be. And then you convert it now to tokens. So you have asset-backed tokens that can be used as collateral, right? This is you're the asset owner, you're in purple. And then you're going to send these tokens over your DeFi lending platform to get funds. Okay, that's kind of like the first step. Then the second step, it starts the cycle here as follows, right? So using, again, the smart contracts and the logic of everything of everything here is that we're going to have the lenders who are going to, they're going to give their capital to the platform, right? And based off of the tokens that you're sending over, or the amount that you're asking for, they're going to lend it to you using your tokens as collateral. The capital is then sent to you. You can use it as needed. And the smart contract manages the percentage of interest paid to these lenders with tokens used as collateral. So if you don't pay back, right? Okay, that's it. We're going to get this token, I guess, transferred to this person as collateral, right? And depending on the payback period. So this is what the option. This is really kind of like what the powerful options are to be able to use these tokens for some other in some other ways to be able to get additional funds, get loans, use it as collateral, and to be able to really potentially buy more real estate and continue kind of growing and continuing the pattern. So this is a kind of example of how that would all work. Okay, so that's what we got so far. I'm gonna go through all the questions now that you guys have asked, and let's see what we can do about making sure you guys get all your answers. Okay, what blockchain are the tokens issued on? Ethereum. Right now they're issued on Ethereum. Potentially in the future they'll be issued on Polygon. So that would answer your second question. Well, SolidBlock will be publicly traded. Maybe one day. One day, hopefully, it'll be publicly traded. Do token purchasers need to be accredited in the US? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Are there minimum purchase investment thresholds? Generally, there's a small cost involved with onboarding each LP, usually about $30, just because you have to do the KYC, AML, and accreditation. There's a charge associated with that. So again, you can lower it to $50, $100, whatever you want. We generally recommend the smallest amount being $5,000, but technically there's no minimum or threshold. Okay, white label solution for TokenSuite? Yes, there is. There is a white label solution. Can the investor reliably track and account for disproportionate splits to issuers, operators based on IRR? Yes. Can the system reliably track and account for disproportionate splits? Yes, it can. So I think what you're asking here, is like, let's say something happens. There's always going to be some errors in the accounting. So what you can set up with, let's say, your distributions would be that you would pay out 90% of this, 90% of the distributions holding back a little bit, and then when you do your final accounting at the end of the year, you reconcile any differences as needed. So that's kind of how you would set that up over there. It seems to me it's a lending equity crowdfunding 2.0. Awesome. That's gonna be our next tagline. Thanks, Ricardo. All right. Is the lockup period from when the token is minted, or for each holder from when they take ownership of it? So the lockup period starts at the issuance date. So basically from the point that they would receive the tokens. The lockup period, my understanding of the lockup period really is designed to basically prevent like a pump and dump. So like you don't want people like collecting money from everyone and then pulling out of the deal. So like it comes from the issuance point. There's a lockup period. You can't sell it for a period of time. I know that's true for sure for public stocks, for example. That's why that works. Is USDC the only currency that can distribute token owners? Can we distribute multiple currencies? Yes. Right now we just use USDC because USDC is the most reliable US dollar-backed stablecoin. It's most transparent, has actual assets that back up their stablecoin. But if you want to do in Bitcoin, you want to do another currency, you're welcome to do it. What is the cost of the platform? So it depends. It can be generally the range can go anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000. Depends on what project it is that you're looking at. So what you can do is you can set up a call with us, and we can go through your project and your specific detail and get you a proposal that would work. No, it's not on a per project basis. That's broken down to the setup cost, and there's a smaller fee then for each additional projects. What is the best possible best practice for setting up an SPV in a European country? So this is a legal question. generally there is a way to do this where you actually would create the SPV in as a Delaware LLC in the United States that would take ownership of the asset in another country. Again, there's a legal process to do that. I'm not entirely familiar with it, but I know there's a way to do it. But that's generally how the process would work. All right, let's see. We had this other window as well. Can tokens be used for more than one property, or does each property have its own token? So the way you would want to set up is you actually do have a token for each property. If you want to create a fund, then what you can do is you can create an SPV that, let's say, owns multiple assets, and then you're creating a fund of that SPV. So I guess the answer to your question is yes. Depends on what your strategy is there. If it's kind of you would want, I don't think you would want to make it like this of two. You want to make it of a lot. I mean, the benefit of doing it, like the structure generally would be, you'd want to actually create an SPV for every single building, and then create another SPV that owns all the tokens from all those buildings. Because when you do it that way, you actually have, you can create like an index coin essentially, and then you can swap it out, swap the tokens in and out. If one token's going down, take it out, make sure only the higher performing ones are in there. Like, there's a little more options to be able to do that. Like, that's more of a strategy question, right? Technically, like, you can do anything, right? That's not an issue. It's more of a business strategy question and a legal question. All right, what is the main difference between difference from investing in equity real estate? What is the main difference from investing in an equity real estate crowdfunding project? Okay, fine. So yeah. So this is a good question. Like, let's say if you go like a crowdfunding company, what you're doing is you're using or leveraging a part of the law called the Reg D 506C, which allows you to get access to a wider group of smaller investors. Generally, the way it's worked in the past, it actually winds up being a bit of a hurdle later on, because now you have a lot of small investors, but you still have the old kind of, SPV non-digital way of giving those shares to everyone else. I think they might do something else. I'm not sure. There might be another step to do it, but tokenization is actually perfect. It goes hand in hand with crowdfunding, because all these people now, right, who say they want to invest, right, you can just onboard them on a TokenSuite. You don't have to handhold them. They get their tokens. They get all these extra options. It's a great selling point. It's a great way to stand out on a crowdfunding platform. So it's not that there's a difference. It kind of goes hand in hand with it. All right. If the investors sell over an exchange, how can we ensure the investor they sell to passes KYC AML check? Great question. Okay, so here's how that's going to work. So we get to the point now where it's trading, right? So let's say that the guy's now going to go over to T0 and he's going to trade his token. So we have a relationship with T0 as well as INX. Right now, it's only going to be this is the initial phase, right? The exchanges that we have relationships with, because we know those people are going to go through KYC AML. And then what we can do is we say to T0, hey, anyone on your platform who sells the token, they've gone through KYC AML on your platform. Their wallets are all whitelisted. So we basically put in the smart contract that, hey, you can transfer this token to anyone on the whitelist of T0. Right, let's say a few thousand people, or I don't know how big their platform is, bigger than that. Right, so like we go through KYC AML, and then we whitelist them, and then you can only trade those tokens to people who've already been whitelisted. Right, so you can't just go sell. You can't send it to Coinbase. You can't send it to Doshmo. The transactions won't go through because it has to go through that KYC AML check first. Do you still have to be an accredited investor to legally purchase assets that are tokenized? Thinking this is specific to states or countries likely different. Okay, fine. So the answer to your question, Tom, is yeah. So this is just for the United States. Actually, if you are selling to countries outside the United States, they actually don't need to be. Well, they need to be accredited, but they don't have to go through like an official accreditation process. They can be self-accredited. So technically, like the onus for a U.S. person is that you actually have to check that they are accredited. If it's a non-U.S. country, the onus is on them to not lie, basically, that they are accredited. But technically, they could go through the platform and say they're accredited and invest there. Again, that's just legal component, and lawyers obviously can give you some more guidelines how that works. That's again, what we're talking about here is there's the tokenization aspect of things and there's the legal aspect of things. It's important to keep that in distinction. Like tokenization, you can do anything you want, any business logic you want, anything you want to set up, no problem. The question is going to be legally, how are we working around this? And SolidBlock has, we have years of building up this knowledge. What is the best legal process and way to do things with tokenization? But again, to answer that question is more so a legal question. How can we change this accredited law? Go talk to Gary Gensler at the SEC. Seriously, go talk to Gary. If you could, it would level the playing field and allow low incomers. Listen, Thomas, I 100% agree with you. And I think that where this is going to go eventually, like if you look at the kind of the equities market in general, there's a lot of rules about issuing securities to individuals. Like there's the whole idea behind accredited. There's three. There's accredited. There's sophisticated. I think also there's another one, and then there's just regular retail. But basically, the idea is that when you have an asset that's got a questionable future, sometimes real estate can have, like, if it's a very early stage project, it like, okay, maybe we'll run out of money. Maybe they're going to change the zoning law. And all of a sudden, everything's going to go kaput. Maybe there's going to be an earthquake. Like what they're going to be like. It's not done yet. It's not a real asset yet. It's the same reason with it's the same logic that you have with a startup company, right? And an IPO. Really, it's an IPO, right? That you have an IPO where someone's listed on the stock exchange. It's like basically showing that at this point, this stock has matured enough that it's a quote unquote safe investment, right? It falls within a certain range or whatever. But things that are earlier stage, the reason you want to have a accredited investor there is because the assumption is that they have enough knowledge, business know-how to be able to assess the deal. Now, what you can do in the future, and this is kind of one of the ways that that we would be able to do exactly what you're talking about, is that once you have an index coin, right? So once you have a bunch of properties, you can create an index coin, and then that index coin that could trade to retail, and they'd be able to trade that without a problem. And then the underlying assets, could be swapped in and out to maintain a certain level of that coin. Okay, let's see. Let's check the other one. Am I missing one? All right, guys, I'm just gonna do one more question because we're a little bit past our time here, and I gotta do some other things. Let's just see here. See. Okay, how is the valuation of the asset determined by SolidBlock, by the sale price in the exchange? Is it manually entered? Can it be digitally automated based on the P&L? Yeah, so that's a great question. So right now it's going to be, so let's say for the primary sale, and it will be inputted. It's going to be based off the NAV. Whatever, like that's going to have to be an appraiser. The same way you would appraise it today is going to come and appraise the property. Particularly if you're like doing like let's say a building project, so every quarter, let's say, it's going to be reassessed as having an increase in value, and then that will be entered in. Then the token price, it winds up being the whatever the NAV is divided by the number of tokens issued, right? So that's what drives the price of it. Once it starts trading on exchanges, then it winds up being the NAV, and as well as then the trading volume averaged out. Again, divided by the number of tokens that you have. How do we engage with you post the webinar? You can send me an email. Well, actually, the truth is that's actually what I'm gonna go to next. So if you guys actually have, anybody has a relevant project that they would be interested in tokenizing, you can go over to just solidblock.co. Right in the front, there's this big purple button. You can click tokenize an asset. And what you'll do is, we're gonna ask a couple of questions just so we kind of understand a little bit about your asset, and then we'll set up a call with someone from our team to assess it, and we'll walk you through, first of all, we'll build a strategy with you about how to do this. And then we can also ask you specific questions or go through specific parts of the product that you would want to see as most relevant for your business, bring in relevant team members if you need to, and then we can get you guys a proposal once you understand the scope of your project. So thank you, everyone. This has been awesome. You guys have been a great group. This webinar will be available also on our YouTube channel a couple of days. Might be by tomorrow. We'll see how fast the team gets it done. This has been, I'm gonna stop sharing. And this has been great. There were all these questions here. It's always fun. I wish I had more time to spend with you guys. All right, guys. I'll see you guys all later. If again, the best way to get in touch, go through this form, solidblock.co right on the homepage. If you have any specific questions, you can email me and I'll try to get back to you by tomorrow, and we'll see what we can do to help you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.